How is it that some lessons take years to learn and only moments to forget? Maybe it's because some of life's greatest lessons aren't found in classrooms. They're earned through success, setbacks, and a few bruises along the way. But let's have ourselves a pocket-sized pep talk and explore why experience is such a powerful teacher and why wisdom isn't always permanent.
A Pocket Sized Pep Talk, the podcast that can help energize your business and your life with a quick, inspiring message. Now, here's your host, Rob Jollis.
Today's guest, Jim Yount, has spent the last 32 years in the financial industry, developing and leading distribution groups. As a former Marine Corps Infantry Officer, he brings discipline and leadership from his experience in the Corps into his work today. He's a husband and a father, guided by a simple mantra at home and at work: in service to others. Happy to have you with us, so welcome to the show, Jim.
Hey, Rob, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, now, folks, we've got a little background information. Jim and I have known each other for over 30 years. Hey, can you believe that? I know. I was only 4 when you met me. I don't know about you, but
yeah, maybe 4.5.
I looked old for my age. Anyway, it's really nice to sit down with you because Jim, I learned a lot from Jim. Jim learned a few things from me as well, but I think I want to start with that mantra of yours. Did the military teach you that, or did you just show up with it, in service to others?
Well, I think my mom taught me that more than anything. It was reinforced when I was in the Marine Corps that you were constantly serving your troops. I was an officer, and so you had to be aware of what the needs were of your Marines all the time. And while the mission was super important, obviously you want to always be successful, your Marines were the most important thing. So you had to serve them each and every day. But yeah, it goes back to my mom. She was a Catholic grade school teacher and was just always in the service of other people. So that's where it started. It was really forced into my brain when I went to an outside training course that you had to actually spell out what your daily mantra was. And I was trying to come up with something short and sweet, and that's what I came up with: in the service of others.
Yeah, well, it actually, I almost didn't ask you the question because I was that sure that you got it from the military. So your mom was a heck of a teacher. You kind of have 2 distinct careers, and one was serving your country, another serving, in a sense, your business community. Looking back on that, what lessons do you think connected from one to the other?
Well, in the financial services world, right, you're constantly trying to find ways to serve your clients. It's not about you. It's not about what you're selling to them. It's about finding a solution. Sometimes that solution is not with your firm, and having the courage to explain that to your financial advisors that, hey, we don't have that here. You have to go someplace else to look for that. So that was a really big lesson I learned, that I don't always have the solution, so I have to go outside the solution. And that's one way of servicing my clients. And so that's in the service of others. I talked a little bit about the Marine Corps, and you're constantly in service of your Marines as an officer. They're the most important part of your life, and you really have to make sure that their needs are taken care of. You just want to make sure that everything's good at home. They're getting their checks, they're getting their food, and they're getting your mail. Those are the 3 things that you never screwed up with the Marines. So you had to make sure they were taken care of.
I think you know this. I was raised by a Marine, not a Marine myself, but certainly understood the mentality. Matter of fact, little side note, I don't know if I ever told you this, but whenever in the Washington, D.C. area, and maybe where you are, we have HOV lanes, big signs,
Sure. Yeah.
HOV 3 or HOV 4. To this day, when I see an HOV sign, I smile because I don't read it as HOV. I read it as HOOV. Because because my dad never said the word move. He would say, "Go get me that Hoove," and so I say Hoove 3 or Hoove 2, but I don't know the HOV part.
That's funny. Oh, that's great. Well, I'm in DC. I spent some time out in DC when I was working with the State Department out there, And so I'm very familiar with the HOV lanes. And if you don't get off the road before that on, I think it was 66 or whatever, you get your ticket. They're set up there to get your ticket. So,
Yeah, well, you better move yourself off of that lane, I guess.
yeah.
One piece that I was waiting to hear you say, and I know it's going to slip out at some point, but let's do it now, is when I'm hearing those lessons, and I'm taking this again from the son of a Marine, I think of the word discipline. And, and people think I'm almost compulsive in nature. It's not that. I really don't have to run up and down stairs or wash my hands a certain number of times. It's not that type of discipline. It's not a compulsion. It's a discipline to see something through. And that was, something that my dad taught me. And I felt it was kind of sliding down from the core, but it really helped me in business. How about you?
Same. Once again, I'll have to draw back to my mom, who told me I'll tell you a quick story. My mom had colon cancer, had surgery, went through surgery, was a grade school teacher, still teaching grade school. She'd go get her chemotherapy treatments, and she'd be grading papers, as she was a history and civics teacher. So I'm sitting there going, Mom, why don't you just retire? And she looked at me, and once again, this goes back to what your dad instilled into you, and what the Corps instilled in me is, what would you have me do? Give up? And so it just once again solidified in my life that it doesn't matter how tough it is, you just got to keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing, and have that never give up mentality, that you got to see something through. You got to find another way to do that. And a lot of times I tell people, you just got to break it down, right? I have a thing called daily drivers for my sales team and for myself, that those are the most important tasks that you perform every day. Whether it has to do with your health, your faith, your family, at work, it doesn't matter. These are the things that are going to get done regardless. These are going to drive the solutions to the problems that you may encounter each and every day. And if you start skipping them, that's where I start to see sales professionals kind of slack off a little bit. They're getting away from what made them great.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I say, I think really it's just sort of an undercurrent, and something I think that you and I connected with, 30 something years ago, was I think I know I saw it in your eyes. And I hope you saw it in mine, which was a discipline. We're not going to do this halfway. There is no half speed. That's why I remember even as a kid, I used to wrestle with my friends. I'm like, how do you kind of half wrestle? I'm trying to take your head off, or let's not wrestle. I don't know how half of that works. But
No, that's so true.
quick question, and this is just a discipline question, and I'll get off this discipline piece. But
Okay.
snooze alarm. I'm sure you have one. How often do you hit it?
I don't. I have a watch that I wear at night that has an alarm, and as soon as it goes off, and I'm usually up 5 minutes before it goes off.
Yeah.
And it's set from anywhere between 4:15 to 4:45. And depends on what my exercise is and what I've got going in the morning. I never hit my snooze alarm. I just can't, because I know if I hit it, I'm not going to get what I need to get done. It's part of that daily driver. So yeah, no snooze alarm for me.
Yeah, I was setting you up with that question because I too have never hit a snooze alarm. First, reason number one is, all I know is the first decision I'm making to start the day is to not live with the commitment I made the night before. It's not a great way to get started. Plus, for me, I always think, and let's just use this as a metaphor, Jim, that whenever we break our discipline, 4:15, 4:45, whenever you're getting up to work out, that's awfully early. You're disciplined to do it. I think the moment you break a pattern like that, that voice that's in your head that says it's awfully early, maybe we missed this one today, gets louder and louder. And I'm talking about sales professionals too. We want them disciplined, because once you break that discipline, it's okay with me. I'll sleep all right. But I'm worried that you're going to become overpowered by that voice that says, let's take a shortcut here. No one will see it. Let's do that. We'll get away with it. And when the answer is zero tolerance, it's easy to make decisions.
No, you're absolutely right, Rob. When you start with what are called non-negotiables, right? My daily drivers. When you start negotiating with non-negotiables, it's just a slide downhill. I mean, baseball, basketball, any sports you want to look at, you start taking days off from your practice and not dribbling or whatever it might be. My brother was a great basketball player, but he was so disciplined to shoot his free throws, shoot from different parts of the court, and he never missed those days. And that's what made him a great college player. But yeah, in sales, boy, you start slacking off in one place. It takes a while to see that negative correlation with sales, but once it shows up, it'll show up quickly. It's like gaining 5 pounds, right? It's super easy to gain the 5 pounds. Man, it's hard to burn that 5 pounds off. And that's the same way with salespeople. Hard to get back into those daily details once you allow them to drop off.
Yeah, I'm with you. We hear the school of hard knocks, right?
Yeah.
And and I used to kind of battle with that. Like I saw the Wizard of Oz as a kid, and I remember, and I'm telling you, like a 5-year-old, being very confused, going, "I don't get it. If she could have gone home the whole time, why did we send her into the forest with a witch and the this and the because she had to learn it herself. Okay, why do you think some lessons really can't be taught? That they have to be experienced?
Oh gosh. Well, I think it goes back to that old saying that all things happen for a reason. Sometimes that reason is stupid and you just make bad decisions. And I think that's what we have to learn in the school of hard knocks. We have to learn the decisions that we made were bad. What are the consequences from those decisions, and how do we correct them going forward? So look, I've been stupid and make bad decisions in my life as well. But man, the consequences next time I think about that, and I'm like, I'm not going there anymore. And to your point, you have to learn it, because if you don't learn it, you're not going to correct the future. Some people get away with it occasionally here or there because they're just talented. But if you can push talent with hard work, and it's incredible. But that's the part where I think the people that work hard, like I had to work hard for everything I got, swimming, whatever. We were super talented. I swam with super talented swimmers. But man, I wouldn't miss a workout because I knew that if I did, the consequences, a day or the next day or the following day would just be too great. So yeah, I'm a big proponent of the school of hard knocks. I think you got to go through it.
Yeah. And I'll go a step further in the point you're making. I've been volunteering for about 15 years for people who are in career transition. It's a group that I hung on with, and I just mentor people, et cetera. But in its heyday, we would have anywhere between 200 to 300 people in the room every Tuesday night.
Wow.
So it was a big group. But I don't know the stats on this, Jim, but I'm going to make them up for a second. Let's just pretend between you and me that 1 out of 100 people in this country or in this world is a genius. And I mean Mensa Club, IQ numbers, congratulations. I would say that, and remember, this is years and years every week of looking at this group. For some odd reason in that room, I would say 25% of the group were geniuses, very smart people. And yet they couldn't hold the job. So they had the talent, okay? But they didn't have the discipline. And to me, that's always been sort of a petri dish of that can't be an anomaly. There must be something there. And I think we're hitting it right now, which is, in a sense, the difference between gaining experience and gaining wisdom. You learn from your mistakes. I'm trying to learn from mine. I think we could both say, oh, I made many of them, but I typically don't make the same mistake twice. How many people do you manage? Do I know? Do you know who keep making the same mistake? Different plot lines, same mistake.
Yeah, I agree, Rob. I think people tend to, when they're talented or geniuses, in your example, they tend to take shortcuts. And those shortcuts lack the discipline that they need to keep that job or to keep their sales up to a certain level, or as an athlete to stay at that level, because they're so smart or they're so talented, they don't think they need the discipline to stay on that right track, to do those daily details, because they believe, and they've been told that they have this great talent for whatever it might be. And that's where the discipline, the hard work, the perseverance, the going completely through the obstacles to keep that job. Yeah, I think they miss out. And that's the piece of of wisdom that I don't think they learn through the experience. They've had the experience, but then they lose the next job or they lose the next game or they miss something, but they're not gaining the wisdom from that encounter or that loss. And that's hard for very talented, very smart people to understand.
Yeah.
It's just how they're built.
Yeah. It's what I refer to as a victim mentality. In other words, it's never their fault. And I managed a sales team for Xerox, and I remember some of the people who struggled. I didn't mind they were losing sales, but it was never their fault. And so we weren't learning anything, right? We
No,
were just like I call it a different plot line, but the same lesson. And
exactly.
I'm not sure I'd wish that trait on my worst enemy of being a professional victim. It's okay, get popped in the nose, just learn from it and duck the next time, right?
Absolutely. Right. Right. No, I completely agree. I've had those conversations with some of my team just recently we've seen there's obviously in markets and things, there's changes that happen and it's super easy to point to something to say, well, that's the reason for it, right? It's so hard to point back at yourself and say, all right, what am I doing wrong? What am I missing? And
Yeah.
have those really good conversations with yourself, look back on your day and say, how did I manage it? Did I do those daily drivers? What did I skip? Yeah, it's that takes a really strong individual and to be able to point the finger back at themselves these days.
Yeah. And I hope people are listening will hear this part of the conversation as well. The irony to the conversation that Jim and I are having right now is that not only will you learn from these mistakes, but you will remove some of the pain that you drag around from these mistakes because you can
Right.
con yourself all you want. Tell yourself this or that. It's the other guy's fault. But when you own some of it, I'm not even asking you to own all of it. Just give me some of it. Okay. You evolve. And whatever pressure you're feeling begins to dissipate. So we're really helping ourselves when we do that.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, it's the first step in anything is accept responsibility, right, for your
Bingo.
actions.
Yeah. Let's
Yeah,
put
I
that
mean
on our
it's
hot list. Yeah.
amen, amen. Yeah, for sure, for
Yeah,
sure.
there's a rule of training that says if you emphasize everything, you emphasize nothing. But Jim and I are putting that one in our top 10. I'm telling you that one right.
It's
Maybe top
exactly.
five.
I was going to say that's definitely in the top two or three for me.
Yeah,
Is a
yeah,
an accepting responsibility in this one. Of course, my wife tells me that all the time too, Rob. It's like, yeah, it might be you in this one. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right.
yeah. I think I've heard that one a few times myself. All right, here's a question for you. I'll give you some time to think
Yeah.
about it because I'm looking
Okay.
for something. We're talking about learning things the hard way. Um,
Hmm.
I want a lesson that you learned the hard way. And if you'd like, and I'll swap with you. I'll go first or second, but I'm thinking right now, I'll give you a classic one that I learned the hard way.
All right,
And
go
I
for it.
and I think not everything I learned from my dad was exactly on point. So, but I took every lesson and lived every one of them. And one of them was when you know you're right, you fight till your last breath. And that in corporate America, we have to kind of look at that in a different lens. Meaning, a lesson I learned is, yeah, if I've got information or I believe in something that will change the trajectory of this company or this moment, I am not going to be a coward and sit down. But I have to assess the situation. And I was bred, weakness is taking that seat. When I learned
Mm,
later on in life that no, it's strength to be wrong when you know you're right. When you're looking at the big picture and you're kind of giving some ground on that one. And that was not an instinct for me. And I think it impacted my career at Xerox. I mean, people always knew where I stood. But if I could go back, I'd whisper in that guy's ear, let's let this one go. And I'll respect the strength that you're displaying in doing it. That's a lesson I learned.
wow, that's a good one. Yeah, I think I can tie into that one because it has to do with capabilities, right? People are always told go after your dreams. Okay, that's fine. But do you have the capabilities to reach those dreams or reach those goals? And you love boxing, so I mean, there's a lot of people out there that maybe do it part time or whatever, but they're probably not going to be heavyweight champions. So you can have a goal of being a great boxer or a good boxer, but you have to assess your capabilities and your skill set. So where are you talented? What's your skill set? And then I try to define my goals based off of that. I was a decent swimmer, right? I swam freestyle, 200, 100, kind of middle distance sprint. I I could not for the life of me. I still haven't been able to swim breaststroke for whatever reason, right? So I looked at my capabilities as a kid growing up, and I said, that's my spot. I've got a dream of doing X because I don't have the capabilities to do Y. So that it's all about the self-assessment for me. And I tried and tried and tried, and I realized, to your point, I didn't have the strength or the capability to hit that goal. So for me, the school of hard knocks on that one was, you got to figure out what you're really good at and then force yourself into that lane. Doesn't mean you can't mess around over here in this other little lane that you like, but man, if I'm making a living, or if I think I need to do something, I got to focus on my strengths and possibly give up something on the other side.
Yeah. You remember Dean Smith? He used to coach North Carolina some years ago.
Sure. Yeah.
As a Maryland fan, I wasn't a huge fan of him, but I respected him as a coach. And there was a great quote of Dean Smith. He said one time, he said, you can't approach every game as a life and death experience. To begin with, you're going to be dead a lot. and, and coming from Dean, that worked for me. So I think, as you know, I'm an effort guy. I can't always control the outcome, but I can control the effort. And I know that sounds corny and it's been said before, but those are words that I really firmly believe in. And I got to believe you, even as a swimmer, when you got out of the water, I'm sure you wanted to win every race. But the first thing you wanted to be able to do was look yourself in the mirror and go, I didn't leave anything in the tank. That was, I gave it all.
Exactly. And you know what? It's interesting you bring up effort. So there's four things, five if you want to get spiritual, but there's really four things every day that you can control no matter what. You don't need talent, but these are the four things that I've found that I have to put in my life. One is the physical. It's what you do every day. Do you get up? Do you work out? Do you even walk? What do you put in your body? How do you approach that? That's your call. That's your doing. And people can say, well, I travel, I can't do this. You can still find healthy meals when you travel. I used to travel a couple 100,000 miles a year on airplanes, Rob. I know you were the master traveler because I read your book. So yeah, that's one. Number two is the effort you put in on everything. So you've got the P, the physical, the E, the effort. There's no cost of talent on effort. You can always put effort in. The next is the A, and that's the attitude. And you can choose your attitude on how you approach it. It may be a lousy task like cleaning the bathroom or whatever you're doing, but you can have a good attitude saying, well, this is going to make the house smell better or whatever, but have the proper attitude. You get to choose that. And finally is character. And character, that's the one thing my mom taught me a lot about was, what do you do in the dark that you'd be ashamed of in the light? So when you have put yourself through the physical, the effort, attitude, and character, I call it peak performance. That to me, those four things, if I control those four things every day, I've had a good day. But that goes back to your effort, which is, what can I control? And that's what's so important.
Yeah. And it calms the mind too. I mean, quite frankly, you and I have been put in some pressure situations. I'm talking about the corporate side of this. And, people will always ask, I'm sure you, if you're getting up to speak, you're nervous? No. Not nervous. I'm anxious. I mean, I want to do the best I can, but I think we can control that because we know, because I'm ready to run the race. I didn't just wander in here. And I go back. I think our experience as a point guard, I think our experience as athletes helps here because we were trained to put in that work and before we play that game. Not just to show up and play the game. And that's the beauty of being coached well and playing athletics, at least for me.
It absolutely, and it's not only coached well, but it's also you're coaching yourself well.
Yeah.
So you have that outside coach, but you also have your inside coach too. Did I do enough to be at this point in time? And that's the difference between being nervous and being anxious, right?
Right.
Sometimes people get nervous because they're looking back and going, "Oh, I didn't put enough into this." But being anxious is like, hey, it's like the horse is getting ready to race. They're in that gate and they just want to get out and bolt and do their best
Yeah.
job. Right?
Love the horse.
That's how
Respect
I
the
feel
horse.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, it's absolutely factual on that there's
Yeah.
a big difference between preparation, anxious, and being nervous.
Yeah. I call that good fear.
Good fear. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's good fear. There's bad fear. That's the nervous one, but we can work with
Right.
that. The one that
Yeah.
scares me is the third one. I call that one no fear.
Oh, no.
Because occasionally, I hope you never saw it, but sometimes you do something a whole lot of times and you start thinking that you're a racehorse getting loaded and you barely know you're running a race. That's not going to be
Right.
a race.
No, the whole no fear thing is absolutely
Yeah.
it's healthy fear. I think everybody needs, if they're going to have fear, you need that healthy fear. I do it. I'll go out and swim in the ocean occasionally, and I'm not nervous, but I have a healthy respect for the ocean, the waves. I've been in a few nasty situations in the ocean before, not sharks or anything like that, but just big
Currents.
swells. Wonder if I'm going to get back into the beach.
Yep.
So that's given me a healthy respect, and I think that's probably something
Yep.
that we really need to encounter with everything we're doing in sales too. Is just have a
Yep.
healthy respect for the person you're talking to, yourself, your abilities. Don't get over your skis, because the last thing you want to do is be in stumble. The greatest thing I've ever said is, I don't know. That's a great question. Let me get back to you and then follow up. And then I've learned something instead of trying to make something up, because you get called out on that stuff.
Yeah.
It's just not, that's not.
Oh, I'll tell you a little secret. So this is just between you and me, sort of.
Okay.
And that is, I always pride myself in it. I've never lied to an audience except maybe twice. And both times it was the
Okay.
same lie. And the lie was, I'm going to get back to you because I'm not 100% sure of that answer. And you brought me here not to guess. And in fact, Jim, I knew the answer, but I had rattled off 6 straight answers before that. I had an analytical crowd that had an eyebrow in the air, and they needed to see what happened when I didn't know. So to me, and that eyebrow immediately went down when they went, "Oh, good. So he'll tell us. All right. What
Yeah.
else have training boy?" And and away we go. So yeah,
Yeah. That's good. No, that's good. I like that.
all right. I got one
Yeah.
final question for you. Bringing it home.
Okay.
You've written a poem called "The Breach," and I understand it's something that you return to every day. Tell me the story behind it and why it continues to have such an impact on your life.
Wow. I'm not a poet. I don't write poetry. I barely read it. Occasionally I'll read it. Some of the musicians, I think, have done a great job of, that I listen to words of musicians, and I think there's some great poetry in there. This thing about the breach, I don't know how familiar you are with what the breach is or anything like that, but it goes back to the 1800s, where the British were trying to siege a castle. And after a point of just pounding a specific wall, there became a breach in the wall. And that breach was then fortified by the people protecting the castle with cannons and muskets and everything. So there's this forlorn hope, the people, the vanguard that would go into the breach, and they would be called the valiant stormer, and they were allowed to wear this patch. But it took a lot of courage to be able to do that, and protection of the other people that they were trying to finish their mission. So for me, I was reading a story about that, and I thought, wow, am I going into the breach every day? Am I doing the right things in life and work? And it's just something that I wrote. It's between me and somebody else I'm having a conversation with, me personally or them, and it's called "At Last Into the Breach," and it's about someone that's fearful about going in, because all the problems that can happen as you make that decision versus having the courage, having the honor, having the love, having the life to be able to say, no, I'm gonna walk into the breach for my family, for my firm, for my faith, for my friends. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna take that risk and do that every day. So yeah, it sits right here on my desk every day. I read it probably a half a dozen times. It's about, it's very short, but it's, for me, it really helps me center on what's important.
You got it in front of you right now?
I do.
Can I hear it?
Want me to read it to you?
Yeah, would you? You're going to close the show on this. So I want to hear it.
Oh, boy. All right. So it's the title is At Last Into the Breach. Come, he beckoned. Where? The breach, he whispered. Me? Us. The breach, he called. No. Why? He questioned. Cowardice, disgrace, hate, death. You? He asked. Yes. Never. Courage, honor, love, life. The breach, he insisted. We? Always valiant stormer, he whispered. At last, into the breach. So there you have it.
There you go. That's like a gymnast coming off the balance beam and sticking the landing, Jim. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
I appreciate that. Thanks. I've never read it to anybody before. I hardly share it with anyone. I've given it to my two boys in hopes that it somehow encourage them. But if it resonates with somebody, I think it's great.
Good. Well, it resonated with me. Listen, I've been after you for some years now to get you on the show, and I'm really glad that we finally were able to do it. I think it was a great conversation. Love talking to you. I miss you. Wish we could see each other a little bit more, but he's on one coast, I'm on the other. He's with one company, I do my own company. But exactly. A pleasure seeing you and learning from you. How do people get a hold of you, Jim?
Probably on LinkedIn would be the best way. You can just search for my name. It's under James Yount, Y-O-U-N-T. You can look me up. There's a funny picture of me, I think, on there that's looking up at a climb that I'm getting ready to do out in Joshua Tree. I live out in high desert part of the time. So yeah, if you see that funny guy looking up at this climb, that's me. Just get in touch with me. And I got to tell you, Rob, I had a blast with you over the years. I don't think I would have been as successful in sales for sure and in management if it hadn't been for your training. That one question that you always ask when you're talking to people, and that has
the Birmingham ad, yeah.
And it's never, ever failed me. So I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you, and I learned plenty from you as well. Wonderful seeing you again, and thank you so much for the kind words and being on the show.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate it.
Well, folks, we'll do it again as well as we can next time. Until then, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate and recommend it on iTunes, Outcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information on this show and Rob at jollis.com.